Today's video is all about how we handle conflict in a public forum, okay? How do we deal with it in meetings? How do we deal it when people are looking at us? And how do we make sure that we don't burn everything down in one little moment? Now, you know that Steve Jobs, we're gonna watch a video right here with Steve Jobs. He always has those kind of like big presentations. This is one where he's talking to his engineers at Apple, okay? And let's see what happens and how he handles it. See what we can infer on ways to make ourselves, you, better at handling conflict in situations like these. Let's go check it out.
Yes.
Mr. Jobs, you're a bright and influential man.
Here it comes.
So right off the bat, dude, he knows it. Like he's being set up. Like you're a bright and influential man. It's just like boom, boom, bang, getting ready to get punched right in the head. Kind of makes a little joke about it. And then let's see how the face, smiling now, let's see how it handles it as we go deeper and how deep this guy goes, all right?
It's sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about. I would like, for example, for you to express in clear terms how, say, Java, in any of its incarnations, addresses the ideas embodied in OpenDoc. And when you're finished with that, perhaps you could tell us what you personally have been doing for the last 7 years.
All right, so let's pause again. So this guy, whoever he is, God love him, has come here, and this is his. How long do you think it took him to write this? He probably talked to his buddies, talked to himself, talked to his wife, talked to his dog, and said, man, this Steve Jobs doesn't know what he's talking about. And he might not. I don't know anything about it. And he came to this, like, basically this is his Hail Mary. This is his, like, one kill shot. I don't want to be negative or nasty about it, but he put this down, and he's like, he ended it with, like, what have you been doing? So is that a real question? No. And so, you know, how would you respond to this? You're the head of an organization. Someone's come to you and said, like, super technical thing, Java, whatever, it all went over my head, doesn't support something, and then what have you been doing for the past while, right? So how would you handle it? I mean, I put myself in that situation. I'm trying to think how I would handle it. So it's good to put ourselves there. Let's see how he handles it in this scenario. First of all, he sat down, which I think there's something to that. I don't know if it was by on purpose or by design. Steve was standing initially. I don't know if I'm making too much about this, kind of a molehill, but he was standing where he's presenting, it's happy, he's open. If I wanted to work a room, I would standing and, you know, I would move around and move my hands in an outwardly way like this. But what has he done right now? He sat down, shoulders a little bit in, not weak, shoulders, it's more like trusting. It's more focused. He's holding the water bottle with two hands. I don't know if I'm reading it, but I got to present on a daily basis to people. Like these are ways in which to garner support by going down like this instead of like this. So maybe I'm looking into it. Who knows? A lot of people there.
You know, you can please some of the people some of the time, but one of the hardest things when you're trying to affect change is that people like this gentleman are right in some areas. I'm sure that there are some things OpenDoc does, probably even more that I'm not familiar with, that nothing else out there does. And I'm sure that you can make some demos, maybe a small commercial app that demonstrates those things. The hardest thing is, how does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year?
All right, okay. A lot was contained right there. First of all, the conversation, there's a lot of people in the room, but the person stood up, made his boom shot at Steve directly. So for a lot of us, it would have been me and you, or you going right back at that individual. Well, I've been doing this. I've been doing that. I've been doing this. I'm making the right decision. I. It would have been one against one. That's not what happened. What Steve did is he slowed down. He pulled the air out of the room like that he was thinking about it deeply, and he Might have been. It might have been an act, but he might have been thinking about it deeply. And then the other thing, did he look directly at that person's face? No. Like, he turned the room to be on his side, whether they were or not. This is my interpretation. By not looking here, he looked out here and here and here. He connected to individuals, not in a weak way. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't being evasive or any of those things. He was connecting with the audience. And what words did he use? He did not say the word I once. He did not say the word I, meaning Steve Jobs, one time. He said you. And who has the responsibility in that room, or who has the challenge of selling $8 billion worth of stuff? It's that dude right there. But he said, what did he say? When you are trying to affect change, like he put it in the brains of the people out there and the hearts to say, when you are trying to do it, like, and he said, this gentleman, he did not speak to them, Tommy from, whatever department or whatever. He generalized it in a relatively respectful way. And he did not say I, he said you. When you're trying to affect change, and when you have to do this, and when you have to find a way to go out to $8 billion, think about if you're in the audience. This is a really good presentation. You never want to say I. You always want to say you. Okay, I'm going to use an example. When I got stabbed in New York City, it really hurt a lot. I bled and I worried about my family and mom, okay? And my brothers and sisters. I'm not going to cry, all right? If I were to change that story and say, when you're in New York City and you get stabbed and you realize that your life flashes before your eyes and you look and you think, what is my mom going to say looking at me when I'm on a flat table and stuff like that? The you is the biggest part of the story, because you start putting it in there. So that's what he's done. He has turned the room by making it touch their heart about their decision. How are we going to affect change? Because at the end of the day, the people are going to start balancing, instead of going all the nerd stuff about, oh yeah, JavaScript, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? It's like, what is the best decision for all of us? And if I was in that spot, what I make? Enough ranting, like you instead of I.
And one of the things I've always found is that
he just went I.
You've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room.
Okay.
And I've got the scar tissue to prove it. And I know that it's the case. And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple,
what's up with those pants?
It started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that? And I think that's the right path to take. I remember with the laser writer, we built the world's first small laser printer, as you know, and there was awesome technology in that box. We had the first Canon cheap laser printing engine in the world, in the United States here at Apple. We had a very wonderful printer controller that we designed. We had Adobe's PostScript software in there. We had AppleTalk in there. Just awesome technology in the box. And I remember seeing the first printout come out of it, and just picking it up and looking at it and thinking, we can sell this. Because you don't have to know anything about what's in that box. All we have to do is hold this up and go, do you want this? And if you can remember back to 1984, before laser printers, it was pretty startling to see that. People went, whoa, yes. And that's where Apple's got to get back to.
Cool. So when he said, I'm going to hit one more time on the I and the U. When he said, when there was any kind of negative a mistake, he said, this mistake that I have made. When there was any kind of solution or opportunity or something positive, it was you. Obviously, that's good. He's uniting the room. And then he focused on what's the crux of the issue. Is he fighting about JavaScript versus whatever? No. He is addressing this in a strategic manner, right? Like customers over technology. If you were to take a ranking system, he was saying we at Apple, we are going to always go to like what is the best for the customer, what can be popularized, what can make them see that, oh my God, this is so easy that anybody can do it, right? And he gave that beautiful example about the laser printer or whatever it is. And he said, we can sell this. It's just so obvious, jump off the paper, if you will. The benefits are there, right? So he has taken somebody shooting at him directly and attacking him. And then he's also turned it into like what they believe as a company. And he seems pretty chill in this one. Nice. And he slowed his voice down a little bit, which I think is important. And so that's really beautiful. He's redefining that like what they are all about culture-wise. So let's check it out.
And, I'm sorry that open doc's a casualty along the way. And I readily admit there are many things in life that I don't have the faintest idea what I'm talking about. So,
who was he looking at when that happened? He was looking at the room when he was talking about all that stuff, and then he looked directly at the guy when he was talking about saying, yes, it may be the wrong decision technology, and I'm very sorry for that, or whatever he said, but he was looking at that guy. So he made a decision eye to eye on that person. Like, he is not abandoning him. If he would have just gone around the room, not that he was ever like, kind of going, looking at the roof or anything, but if he didn't acknowledge, I think it would be less impactful. So he came back and he hit it. And he said, he gave some merit to the guy. So the guy can leave saying, yes, Steve acknowledged that it may be the wrong decision. But the bigger fish that we're going after is X. And so there's a reason why this guy's good.
I apologize for that too. But there's a whole lot of people working super, super hard right now at Apple. Avi, John, Garino, Fred. The whole team is working, burning the midnight oil, trying to, and people, hundreds of people below them, to execute on some of these things, and they're doing their best. And I think that what we need to do, and some mistakes will be made, by the way. Some mistakes will be made along the way. That's good, because at least some decisions are being made along the way. And we'll find the mistakes, we'll fix them. And I think
he got clapping out of a complaint, right? I want to go back and look and watch like why he's standing up and why he's sitting down. And it might just be natural reaction. I might be like scrutinizing too much. It's very possible. But when he's trying to make these points, he's standing up. He's got his hand like this. And I realize I'm doing that, but that's just because I got too long of a beard. But he's standing up to make a point, to bring emphasis. So think about your body position when you're presenting. And initially you'll just be like, oh my God, like this is weird. But think about how you use your body to make points and emphasize and do those things. He's obviously as good as it gets.
What we need to do is support that team going through this very important...
I'm sorry for stopping. His hands, support that team. That's another thing that you can do when you present. If you're going through, and these are just natural things, you want to emphasize things. I want to emphasize things. I want to emphasize things. Like you can even, boom, drop it on him. Like he's using all these little things. Like it's just who he is. But we can, if we watch the way we do it, there's no bad about like stealing from people in this sense. He's just an effective communicator, and you can be better by all these little things. See how I do that? Let's keep it going.
Stage as they work their butts off. They're all getting calls, being offered 3 times as much money to go do this, do that. The valley's hot. None of them are leaving. And I think we need to support them and see them through this and write some damn good applications to support Apple out in the market. That's my own point of view. Mistakes will be made. Some people will be pissed off. Some people will not know what they're talking about. But I think it is so much better than where things were not very long ago. And I think we're going to get there.
Pretty good, right? So what do we learn? There's a lot to learn in there. That first of all, if you're at the top, you're going to get shot at. That's just the way it goes. You're going to make some decisions that make people, not support you, or they'll ruffle their feathers, or they're not going to like it. It may be a technical thing. We have to acknowledge it. We got to do it in the right way. And then how he handled that is, do you think that person left and felt like Steve didn't answer my question? No, he spent, 8 minutes, 9 minutes talking about it, right? And he really kind of wrapped everything about what the company's all about around it. So some of the things you can leave here with. when you're telling a story, when you're communicating with anybody, it might be all about you, you're the big person, woohoo, but you never use the words I, unless it's your fault, right? It's your fault, then the I comes to you. You never pass the blame, and this seems like obvious stuff, right? But I make this mistake, you make this mistake, we all make this mistake, okay? So I is for mistakes. You is for the solutions, the opportunities, the challenges. When you put this, because it puts in people's head when you have this challenge. They don't have that challenge, really. They're building their interfaces, they're building their whatever, their solutions, their technology. But when you have this challenge, so that people go, what would I do? And they start to internalize. It's important. The other thing is he just went back to core values. In a sense, amazing the customer over finding a way to shoehorn a fancy pants technology that the nerds like or that the engineers like, right? So he really clearly delineated and defined that we're going to go with customer first always in a positive way. And it's the right thing to do. And there's going to be stumbles along the way. That's really good. And lastly, just some of the little things that we saw is how he used his body when he stood up, when he sat down, how he brought people together to slow the room or thoughts down, right? When he sat down, he brought the shoulders in. He wasn't hiding or anything like that. And then how he used his hands for emphasis. These are little things that you can take away. So that was a fun one. I like it. Let's keep it rolling and put some of that stuff into practice. Don't overdo it. Anytime you do these things, don't overdo it. You'll become like, people will go like, what's wrong with this person? Stand up, sit down, blah, 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 blah. You look like you're karate chopping the air. Nice and easy, bros and brosettes. Like, start to do it a little bit. Just start to emphasize. Slow it down. And let's put it into practice. So, see you in the next video. See ya. Adios.